Hello and welcome everybody to this edition of Gotham Sound TV Quarantine. I am very, very happy to be here with Carl Winkler from Lectrosonics. Carl, say hello to everybody, please.
Hello out there, and thanks for tuning in.
It's really good to see you, Carl. How are you? How are you doing?
Doing well. Mostly working from home. I came into the office to do this because this is where all the product is.
Oh, sorry, jeez. Oh my God, I
I got a
forgot
little
about
delay.
that. No, sorry. There we go.
Yeah.
There
Uh,
we go.
yeah. So, mostly my wife and daughter and I are all working from home. Daughter's doing her classwork and everything. And so we're pretty hunkered down. It's week 4 at this point or something, maybe week 5. And so you kind of lose track of time, but we're making the most of it. I mean, we did a huge deep clean on the house this weekend where we just got rid of a ton of stuff and cleaned everything really well. It felt really good.
Did you find anything? Did you find anything
Yeah,
surprising?
I did. I had these cufflinks that my dad gave me that were these beautiful Navajo silver cufflinks, and I had
Oh
lost them,
wow.
and I thought that I'd left them on a shirt, and they went to the dry cleaners and never came back. And there I was going through the closet, getting rid of some stuff. I'm like, ding, there they were on a shirt hanging in the closet. So, stuff like that was great.
Oh, that's yeah. No, it's awesome. It's amazing to see how people have made use of the time. Masks. There's lots of masks being made.
Yes.
I have a disposable one here, but yeah, no, it's
Yeah, we've got those. I mean, yeah, we wear them around the plant here. And, here at Lectrosonics, it's pretty much a skeleton crew.
mhm.
Gordon's coming in a little bit most days. VP of Engineering's coming in, production. But it's really the most constant thing is the service staff. They're on about halftime, but there's someone there to answer questions. Gerald Wiesner is here almost every day. We've got
Mm.
service techs coming in. So mainly in support of the news organization because that's essential business. And, but mainly the plant is, I'd say 90% shut down. But we are, responding to emails and inquiries and, fixing units if they come in, that kind of thing, and shipping out orders occasionally if need be. And, so we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah, no, us too, and definitely a lot of supportive news organizations, and
Yeah,
sometimes I think just being a voice on the other end of a line is a good support too in
I
those
think so.
situations. Those guys
Yeah,
are really they're dealing with a lot, so I'm
they
glad
are
we can be here. Yeah.
for sure. And I'm grateful that they're out there doing what they do and, and hoping they're staying safe and everything. And, it's important to get the word out of what's going on and in a lot of different spheres.
Yeah, yeah, it's some pretty traumatic stuff for the men and women working there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you folks have been really amazing too, dealing with our support questions and our issues and just getting product out the door. And so thank you for that.
Great. Yeah. I'll pass that along to the team. I'm sure they'll be glad to hear that.
So we kind of thought, this was NAB time.
Yeah. Today would be the
And
second day of NAB, right? It's
yeah.
so weird to, I don't know about you, but I think I've been going to NAB every year since 1998 when I
Wow.
was working at Sennheiser. And so I was thinking, wow, so really it's been 22 years, that and
Yeah.
so this is the first time. It's such a weird feeling. And I was thinking last night would be our little themed dealer appreciation party that we have every year. And this year was going to be Ford v Ferrari. So we had some cool stuff going for that. But nope, I was home with the family cleaning the house instead. So it was a weird feeling.
Yeah. It's definitely strange. Um, what you have some product to show?
Yes, I think for us this year, the big news at NAB was going to be the IFB R1b. I mean, the IFB product has been such a cornerstone of our product line for the last 20 years since the R1 came out in the late 90s, I think in 99 or so. And then the R1A came out in something like 2001. So it's been a great product for us. But every year when we show a new small transmitter, like when the SM series came out in 2005, people said, ooh, we want a smaller IFB. And then when the SSM came out, everyone said, ooh, we want a smaller IFB. So, people are used to this, and this is like the size of almost exactly a deck of cards, which is
Yep.
fairly compact. And this is kind of at one time was considered compact. But, we finally answered the call and came out with the R1B. It's just a little over half the height, and it is almost exactly half the weight of the old one. So we hope people like that fact. It's much smaller, much lighter, and it's rechargeable. So that's really kind of it in a nutshell. And
It's
go ahead.
frequency bands are a bit wider. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the 3 block,
Mm-hmm.
what we call wideband, and it's
Yeah.
3 blocks wide. So we've got in the UHF band an A1, a B1, and a C1. And then we've also got a VHF that matches the VHF band of the original VHF IFB system. And then we've got, and that one's got a red knob, like the old VHF. And then we've got the 941
Mm-hmm.
unit that matches the 941 band, and it's got the black knob.
Nice.
So those are the kind of the three variants. 3 bands in the VHF range, in the UHF range, and then the other 2 bands as well. So 5 total.
What kind of battery life on the rechargeable battery do we expect?
Yeah, we're finding it's the LB50, the little one that we use with the SSM,
Mm-hmm.
and we find that these run for about 8.5 hours on a full charge. And it's openable. You can pop the battery out. It comes out the bottom, so you could have batteries charging like you do for other types of transmitters, and change them at lunch and keep them running all day. And the other thing, of course, is the dock charging capability. So we feel like, especially in news studio type situations, this will be the way that they'll want to go, is just have a dock set up, and it charges in about 3 hours and runs for a full 8.5. And then, of course, talent can just pick them up, use them for their session, and then pop them back in, and they would always be charged. You can also keep batteries charging, batteries or units in the slots. So.
Wow. And tell me about the headphone output. Is it can it drive any kind of headphone, any impedance?
Yes, within reason. I'm not sure of the exact spec, but it's pretty similar to the original IFB, which is pretty versatile and drives a wide range of earpieces
Mm-hmm.
and headphones. It's automatically detects stereo or mono. It's much quieter than the original, which is something that people have brought up more and more in the last few years as audio electronics continue to get better. They say, why does the IFB have this background hiss no matter where my volume control is? Well, the new one's a lot quieter. I think people will like that a lot.
That's amazing. That's great. Wow, I'm looking forward to really getting those out there.
Yeah, us too. I mean, they are shipping now. And a couple other things I want to point out. These come with this lightweight wire belt clip, but we think that a lot of folks, of course, like the clamp type one, and that's just an accessory that you can add on with a couple small screws very easily. It's not very expensive. And then a little bit more about the dock charger, just so people know. It holds 4 units or 4 batteries, and then these dock chargers can mate together. And I've got, for instance, 2 mated together here, but they can snap together up to 4 of them and run off a single power supply. So the power supply has to be pretty stout, and so we put a different connector on it. These are also fused, but this is a 9 amp power supply at 5 volts.
Wow.
So we thought we don't want anyone to connect that to anything else or any of our standard power supplies to this system. So we tried to think about the dock charging system very carefully about how it might be used in a news environment in particular.
Yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of those kind of environments, any preset action so I can like quick tap between multiple channels?
Yes, absolutely. It's got unlike the old one, that had the hex switches, this one's got a little LCD. It's the same LCD from the SM and SSM. And you can toggle between what frequency it's set at. And by the way, it does 25 kilohertz steps or the presets. And if you've got presets in there and you just use the arrow keys, it goes between whatever presets are programmed only. Then you can go in and program them very easily. But what's nice is it'll skip over. Let's say you have preset 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. That's all you're going to see. So if you jump between those, it'll just go right between them. You don't have to step past blank presets. So we tried to think it out in terms of workflow and what would make sense for users.
And so the volume knob, I'm sorry, the volume knob is a push encoder or?
It's not. No.
Not. Okay,
no.
Good.
So you just would use the arrows on the front.
No, that's great. That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, that was always a trick where you had to, loosen it up and make it not push and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you could
But
put the washer in there
yeah,
so that
yeah,
it
yeah.
wouldn't, yeah, otherwise it would jump to the next. Yeah,
Yep.
we tried to rethink it a little bit, and we've heard some people ask for that to be back on there. But, I think we're going to see how it goes and see if people get used to this sort of configuration. I think they will, but, the only way to tell is really get it out there and have people use it in large quantities and see what comes back. So,
Yeah. We have a question on Facebook from Benjamin, which is, will 941 work with older 944 frequencies? So I guess,
yes, it will.
okay.
And let me cover all of that a little bit. So these units are compatible with the original T4 transmitters. And our IFB transmit is a plus or minus 20 kilohertz deviation, so it's a narrowband FM deviation. And they don't have the unique pilot tone squelch system that digital hybrid has. So the 944 band is only 944 to 952 megahertz, and 941 goes from 941 to 960. But it's compatible as long as you match your frequencies, which is much easier to do now because let's say you're using a T4 944, it'll display the frequency. Then you just dial your frequency into your receiver and you could set it up with presets as an example. So it should be pretty straightforward and pretty easy to use. No more hex codes.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's much, much better.
And that was the problem. With 944 and 941 compatibility, if people were trying to use hex codes, they would run into issues. And that's not the case here. Just dial in the frequency and you're all set. So should be pretty easy. And I should mention, as long as you've got a transmitter that will transmit on any one of these frequencies in IFB mode, so that means all of our hybrid transmitters. For the 941 band, you've got SMV 941, SMQ V941. Those can be used the whole 19 megahertz
Right.
for IFB. So it could be great for bag systems.
That is really fantastic.
Yeah.
I have a question. What about the back clip difference? You did cover that. It's the wire clip.
Yeah, it's going to come with a wire clip, which is pretty stout and should work in a lot of cases. But if someone wants the accessory clip, it's easy to install with 2 screws.
Oh, very cool.
And these are both accommodated in the charging dock. Even with the clip on, it still docks.
Well done. That's really great. Awesome. Yeah. Nice. All right. Anything else you want to add? Any other questions on Facebook about that? I'm just going to give it a second, and then
if anybody's got questions, trying to think. You should be aware of a couple things when ordering this device. When you order it, it's going to come with a unit, the wire belt clip, and a battery. That's the standard delivery package because we expect people to probably do a lot of dock charging with it.
Yes.
However, if you don't plan to dock charge with it, you probably want to order the kit that comes with a charger, the single charger. It doesn't normally come with it, but there's a kit called the ZS IFB R1b with charger. So it's all written out. In other words, it's pretty hard to mistake it not coming with a charger. So, in our price lists and probably in your website, the way you have it listed is the single unit or single unit with charger are 2 separate SKUs.
Very cool. And obviously some people will have their own batteries and there'll be all kinds of combinations. I have a question about whether it's stereo or mono. I think I know the answer to it, but I would like to hear from you.
Sure, it's mono. It's exactly the same kind of mono audio as the original IFB. Same frequency response and all that, other than it's much quieter. But people are reporting that it sounds better to them. It sounds cleaner and quieter, even though its audio specs look almost exactly the same.
That's huge, I think.
Yep.
For wireless boom applications, that's really great. Very cool. What other stuff do you want to show? Do you have what else should we talk about?
That covers it mostly from us. We've got some tutorials out there. The wireless side chats that I did over the last few weeks are now on YouTube. Check out YouTube/Lectrosonics, and there's one about best practices for RF. That was the 4th one that I did, and I spent a lot of time working on RF gain structure for bag type systems because those questions come up a lot. And the kind of troubleshooting that you do and that we do here led me to really illustrate that particular thing. So that video is called More Best RF Practices, and you'll see a lot of diagrams of bag setups and gain structure. trying to optimize what you're doing. I mean, the biggest problem we see is people using too much gain and then wondering why their noise floor is really high and why their range isn't very good. And trying to filter and attenuate is the name of the game in today's RF world. So there's a lot of that kind of information in those presentations.
Yeah, they're really great, and I think that's really the best use of the time that I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is kind of in a holding pattern, if you will, and a lot of inquiries about these very things. People are asking about disinfecting equipment. We did what's called a wire list. It's maybe a couple weeks old now, but it's about how to disinfect equipment and what not to do. You still want to keep moisture out of your gear, that kind of thing. So we're just trying to come up with ways to share knowledge and help people learn more and get up to speed and maybe correct a few misunderstandings. And it's keeping us busy. It's great. I enjoy that. I enjoy teaching.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's been really challenging teaching over this medium, but yeah. Tell me about UV light and I guess its antiviral properties. Have you guys explored that at all? Like especially for equipment to irradiate it with UVC light?
We have not tested it ourselves. We've read up a little bit on it, and it does look promising. It seems like it should be effective. The only caveats that we would add is that some types of equipment, like plastics, like let's say lav mics and any kind of rubbery material, tends to be degraded with UV exposure. But generally, that's over a long period of time. Like if here in New Mexico, we have more than our share of UV.
Sure.
So, we all have window shades for our cars so that our upholstery doesn't get destroyed and things like that. But for short exposure and the kinds of times that they're recommending, I don't really see any issues. But some plastics, like some lav mic cables, may get stiffer, with UV exposure time and time again. Overall, it looks promising. Again, we can't endorse it because we haven't tested it, but I would suggest people read up what's out there. There's a lot of material on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Time exposure is one thing that I read about, and and also not exposing humans to it is another thing.
Yeah, it's bad for your eyes and could cause skin issues for sure. Yeah, but they're talking about these enclosed containers that have UV lights inside,
Yes.
so you could put a small object or a lav
Yes.
mic or a transmitter in there, and we don't think there's any problem with the hardware, the gear itself. But again, without long-term tests, it's kind of hard to tell. Another option is heating the equipment up to 150 degrees for some period of time. Let's say 15 minutes. So if you've got a way to do that accurately, you don't want to overheat the gear, melt adhesives or plastics.
Yes.
But 150 degrees isn't that hot, and our gear won't be damaged by that. But don't leave the battery in there. That probably wouldn't turn out so well.
That's right. All right. Well, Carl, thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah, it's great to see you, and it's good to know everybody's safe. And thanks everybody for watching. If anybody has any questions, I'm just going to take a quick look. Nope.
All right.
Be well. And
you too, Peter.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks so much for having us, and have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Take it easy.